Hello and welcome to our first lecture in grammar, okay, for third classes, the Faculty of Languages, University of Kufa. This is Mr. Zaid Mirza. I'm going to teach you the morphology of English, okay. First of all, we need to know what is morphology. Well, morphology is a branch of linguistics that deals with words. Simply, it is a branch of linguistics that deals with words, okay. So morphology originally or literally means the study of forms, which was originally used in biology, but since the middle of the 19th century, it has also been used to describe the study of those basic elements used in a language. So, what we have been describing as elements in the form of a linguistic message are technically known as morphemes, which is the basic concern of morphology. Okay, so if we define morphology, which is again the study of words, how they are formed, okay, and their relationship to other words in the same language. It analyzes the structure of words and parts of words such as stems, root words, prefixes, and suffixes. So this is the definition of morphology. I hope it is clear, okay? In this sense, we are going to start, of course, with the morphemes, okay? So here you have chapter 8 in your textbook, morphemes. Yes, a definition of morpheme. Before we can examine the structure of words, we must become acquainted with the entity known as the morpheme. A morpheme is a short segment of language that meets three criteria. So before we start studying words in general, we need to know what is meant by morpheme and how can we decide if this segment of language is a morpheme or not. So number one, it is a word or part of a word that has meaning. So it is a word or part of a word that carry meaning, okay? That carries meaning. Number two, it cannot be divided into smaller meaningful parts without violation of its meaning or without meaningless remainders. So if we divide the morpheme or that segment, the morpheme, okay, into smaller parts, it will violate the meaning or the related meaning, okay? Number three, it recurs in differing verbal environments with a relatively stable meaning. So, in other contexts, we can find this morpheme that has the same meaning or related meaning somehow in different contexts. Okay, so again, a morpheme is a short segment of language that meets three criteria. It is a word or part of a word. It cannot be divided into smaller meaningful parts. It recurs in differing verbal environments. Okay. So here you have an example in your textbook. Let us examine the word straight in the light of these criteria. According to these three criteria, try to apply them on the word straight, for example. Let's see if it is a morpheme or not. So first of all, we recognize it as a word and can find it listed in such or in any dictionary, okay, in any dictionary. So here, for example, yes, excuse me, yes, okay, first of all, we recognize it as a word and can find it listed in such in any dictionary. So this word straight, if you open your dictionary and look for it, you find it with a stable meaning. Second, so number one is applied. Criteria number one is applied. Second, it cannot be divided without violation of meaning. So if we divide this word, for example, st and ret, there will be a violation of its meaning, its related meaning. Okay. For example, we can by dividing straight get the smaller meaningful forms of traits, okay, or trait, sorry, ret and et, but the meanings of these violate the meaning of straight. So the meaning of these parts of these divisions will violate the meaning of straight itself. So it is not related meaning again. So we cannot divide it into smaller parts. It is not. So it is a morpheme. Furthermore, when we divide it in these ways, we get the meaningless remainders of se, te, re, etc. Okay. Third, number three. Okay. A threat recurs with a relatively stable meaning in such environments as straight, straightage, straighten, and straight line. Thus, threat meets all the criteria of a morpheme. So, if we apply this word in different different verbal environments, we can see that threat carries the same meaning or the related meaning with the original morpheme, which is strat. Okay, I hope it's clear, and I think we explained this before in your classes before our holiday. Yes, as a second example, let us compare the morpheme. Okay, bright, for example, the word brighten, make light, in sound the only difference between the two words is added n, or brighten, and in meaning the difference is the added sense of make in the brighten. This leads us to conclude that n means make. Thus we see that n is a part of word that has meaning. So here, for example, the word brighten, we have the n addition to the word, to the root word, okay, which is bright. Here n carried meaning, okay, it added meaning to the word bright, which is the meaning of make something, okay. Thus we see that, and we can also apply these three criteria on this n part, okay, to see if it is a morpheme or not. And if we apply them, of course, we see clearly that it is a morpheme, okay. Let's see exercise 8.81. After each word, write a number showing how many morphemes it contains. So here you need to know how many morphemes in each word of these 20 words, okay. For example, number 1, play, it consists of 1 morpheme, while replay consists of 2 morphemes. Again, by applying the criteria, we can decide how many morphemes in each word, okay. Number 3, date, for example, 1 morpheme, antidate, 2 morphemes, etc. Okay. Yes, this is exercise. While exercise 8.2, write the meaning of the italicized morphemes. Here, of course, you know that each morpheme has meaning, or it carries meaning. Each morpheme has meaning by itself, or it carries meaning, or it adds meaning to other morphemes, okay. So here you need to know what is meant by each italicized morphemes. For example, here the replay, it means what, okay, and manly, the ly, means what, keeper, the er, means what, enable, the un, means what, and so on. So here we know that unable, for example, serves the meaning of negative, of none, okay. Est, for example, is the superlative, that cheapest is the most cheapest, okay. So it is it carries the meaning of the superlative adjective, okay. Inactive, for example, the n here, it also serves the negative. Impossible, the same, and so on. So each morpheme, whether it is, as we shall see later, whether it is a free or bound morpheme, each morpheme carries meaning, okay. Yes, free and bound morphemes. Free and bound morphemes. Morphemes are of 2 kinds, okay, free and bound. A free morpheme is one that can be uttered alone with meaning. For instance, in reply to what are you going to do now, you might answer eat. This is a free morpheme, okay. A bound morpheme, unlike the free, cannot be uttered alone with meaning. It is always annexed to one or more morphemes to form a word. So here, for example, let's see the lexically speaking. Here we are we have 2 kinds of morphemes. One of them is a free morpheme. The other one is a bound morpheme. According to I'm talking here lexically, according to their dictionary meaning. So free morphemes, these morphemes that can stand alone with meaning. For example, the word cut, the word go, the word eat, the word play, the word, okay, are, the word, many words we have actually, and most morphemes are free. Most morphemes are free. So, any morpheme that has meaning by itself is called the free morpheme, while those morphemes that carries meaning but has no meaning by themselves, they are called bound morphemes. So, for example, here the ly, the nt, the er, the un, all these are bound morphemes. They cannot have meaning without attaching them to other morphemes. Okay, so this is the bound morpheme. Here we have again, so I repeat, we have a free and bound morphemes. The free morphemes, that morphemes that can stand alone with meaning, and bound morphemes, those morphemes that carries meaning, but they cannot stand alone without being attached to other morphemes. Okay, so here exercise 8.3, underline the bound morphemes. It is possible for a word to consist entirely of bound morphemes. So here you need to know the bound morphemes of each word in the exercise. For example, here let's take one or two examples. A speaker. Here we have speak is the free morpheme, while the er is the bound morpheme. Kingdom. King is the free morpheme, while dumb is the bound morpheme. Okay. Selective, for example, select is the free morpheme, while IVE is the bound morpheme, and so on. And look for this, for this note. It is possible for a word to consist entirely of bound morphemes. So we have also some words that entirely consist of bound morphemes, and it is not necessarily for a word to have a free morpheme. It is not necessarily. A word can also consist of entirely bound morphemes. Okay, well, let's see, before this is the end of our first lecture. Okay, I hope you understood well, and if you have any question, please leave your comments. Thank you very much, and see you next lecture.